Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Anthony Franco with us today. He launches, scales, and sells businesses. Nowadays, he's even a broker nowadays, which is interesting to me. I also want to potentially get my license as one of my multiple businesses. Chief Launch Architect slash founder at Launch Partners. Was the founder and CEO at various businesses and has his own podcast, How to Founder, which we will discuss about today. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to launch, scale, and monetize a podcast through AdSense, lead gen, or sponsoring, you can get a free ebook on our website or masterclass, podfire.com. Anthony, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks for having me, Charles. So I think you did a good job on the intro. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I launch, scale, and exit businesses, and now I try to help other founders do the same. Most of that's I do a little bit of consulting work, but my passion right now is the How to Founder podcast that I do with my friend Chris Franks.
And why did you become a founder in the first place? Was it into you, or is that something that you imposed on yourself?
I think if you ask any entrepreneur why they become an entrepreneur, you're going to get, if you ask 100, you're going to get 100 different answers. But mine is, it's the only way I could earn a living. I'm a terrible employee. So the only way I could feed the family was to work for myself.
Yeah, I would say that is the main answer that I get. Like 80-90% of the time, like myself, I experienced the job experience and I was like, okay, I can make 5x more working for myself. Plus my boss is an idiot, right? So I'm just gonna go and start my own stuff. What was your first venture?
My first venture, the very first thing that I did was I bought a large format printer and started producing film to produce silk screens for t-shirt companies. So it was a kind of a jerry rigged setup, duct tape and chewing gum that allowed me to do it, and found the right materials. I happened to be good at Photoshop and Illustrator and just started producing creative and film for to be specific, Mexican radio station t-shirts in LA.
That is very niche, but yeah, I think my first venture was also into t-shirts. Oddly enough, a bunch of people start there. God knows why. It's like, oh, I have a t-shirt on me. Maybe you should start a t-shirt company. Would you describe yourself more as a product guy initially or more as a great salesperson?
No, I'm a terrible salesperson, but I'm not bad for a product guy, right? So I definitely am a builder. I like to get my hands dirty and be in the weeds and make the products either digitally or physically.
So were you the nerds type? Like when you were younger, did you always love to craft things with your hands and with your mind? Where did you get that skill?
Yeah, I barely graduated high school because I spent all of my time in the computer lab programming in BASIC on an Apple IIe computer. That's what I learned on is Steve Wozniak's BASIC on a green terminal Apple IIe computer.
And what were your goals when you were young? Did you wanted to become, I don't know, a billionaire, a millionaire, or just you knew that you wanted to work for yourself and have fun?
I wouldn't say that when I was younger. Even today, I don't have those aspirational billion dollar goals. I love the work. I love building, solving problems, creating, working with people, collaborating. So I do it because it's why I think God put me on this earth is to be an entrepreneur and help other entrepreneurs. So I do it because I like the process of doing it.
And what is your ikigai nowadays? What is driving you? What does the market want? And what are you getting paid for?
So I think I haven't put my finger on exactly what my next quote big thing is going to be. I think it's somewhere in the intersection of AI and commerce. And I'm working on some projects at a high level. It's nothing I'm prepared to talk about, but I think there's some really interesting things going on in e-commerce and AI that with the right amount of capital has the potential to displace Amazon.
Interesting. Yeah, I had the co-founder of Shop Maven on a couple of days ago. They're deploying AI agent for shopping, so that should be quite interesting. What are the micro steps you need to take to make that idea reality?
Well, the first step is to figure out what the problem is that I'm trying to solve, which I haven't put my finger. I know there's some juicy nuggets there, but I don't have a full meal yet. So I still need to kind of really do a better job of defining the problem that I'm trying to solve. So I'm just exploring. I'm very well versed on e-commerce and how that works and how bad the process is for sellers, for manufacturers and people trying to sell on e-commerce. And I'm very well versed on how Amazon operates its business, which is not good for sellers.
Yeah.
And I'm digging more into what we can do with AI and how we kind of connect the dots between those three things.
Yeah, I thought you were going on the consumer side, right? Because consumers like, do I have an Amazon problem? No, I don't. Amazon
No,
is
they don't.
perfect. They have a crazy moat that you wouldn't get over in 100 years. But yeah, the seller side, Amazon has a terrible platform, and even on the Kindle book publishing side, it's a pain, right? Just if they would have an AI chat at the bottom helping like the seller or the Kindle author commercialize, that would make it better. But interesting challenge that you set for yourself there.
Yeah, equally as good as Amazon's consumer experience is how bad the seller experience is. It's exactly the inverse of it.
Right. Yeah, true that, like bell-shaped curve. You had a couple of exits in the last decades, right? Like I see Comcero here, I see Effective, and now you have Launch Partners, which is an agency, a consulting thing, I would guess, and then the brokering thing. So how do you spend your time? How do you separate your time nowadays?
So I'm in a position right now where I get to work on the things that I want to work on. So I love launching. Like I love the launch process. So launching, products on Amazon or launching into new channels or helping a company launch a new product. So I love the launch piece of a business, and that's either startup or even larger, bigger companies. And I also love I've exited 6 companies. I love the exit process. I like the negotiating, the problem solving that's involved, the back and forth. I love that. So I'm kind of doing those two things as a independent SWAT team member, right? Where you can call me in and help you launch a new product or exit your business.
Right. And one does learn from working with these clients, and plus you're getting paid, right? So love the consulting and agency model as well. What's your thesis behind your podcast, How to Founder?
So How to Founder is so Chris Franks and I are pretty active in the local Colorado community when it comes to entrepreneurs. We have a pretty large meetup group and lots of entrepreneurs that follow us. And we've always wanted to kind of, for lack of a better term, give back to that community. And a lot of the entrepreneurial podcasts, kind of do this, where they're talking to a founder about their background or their history and looking for inspirational stories. And those are great, but that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is essentially being an entrepreneur is incredibly difficult and incredibly lonely. It's on the job training, and mostly you learn by where you fail. All the problems you encounter are first time problems. So what Chris and I are doing is we're looking at all the things that an entrepreneur has to know and picking one topic. For example, how to craft a good pitch deck. But there's a lot of podcasts on it. Like, what do you do when an employee steals from you? How do you make your first hire? How do you read a P&L? So each one of those things is an entire podcast episode where we have an expert in that area, and we just kind of dive deep for an hour on that topic and talk about what it is, why it matters, give you a mental model to think about, and then some resources where you can go dig in and learn more. So at least when you encounter something, you can flip to our podcast episode. Eventually we'll make a book out of it. You can flip to the chapter and just go, okay, so here's the things that I need to think about. Here's what matters. So I don't mess it up as bad as I would have if I didn't know those things.
Right. And what's your thesis behind the pod? Because my side, I have fun, I learn, I make connections, I get views, subscribers, AdSense is paying me, sponsors are paying me, I generate leads. So it is such an ikigai activity that hits all my checkbox. What are your checkboxes? What do you hope to accomplish with the pod?
Well, I mean, so obviously, having experts on, I'm perpetually curious. So I get to learn, 3 hours a week. We do 3 shows a week. So I'm learning constantly from these folks. Also, I like helping. I love helping founders. Chris and I do want to eventually write a book. So this is kind of the prerequisite is creating all these topics and creating a reference manual from these podcasts. So the thesis is we want to serve entrepreneurs for the rest of our lives, and this is part of it. I missed your sponsor. I didn't know about them. It was
Podpire. That's my company.
I'm not getting the pronunciation.
Yeah, podpire.com. So Podpire. That is my
Podpire, Pire.
Yes,
Okay,
like
I'll check them out. I didn't even know about them.
Yeah, that's my company. So that's
it is.
Yes. So for sponsors, does it always need to be like external? Another thing that I advise people on the sponsoring level of things is to go affiliate, right? So always have some affiliate links of the favorite softwares that I use. For example, right now we're streaming on StreamYard, right? So I get paid from people that buy StreamYard subscription, and same for Opus, which you might know, to cut out your pods into AI clips. So you don't necessarily need to have like 100 to 1K per episode sponsors. You can sponsor your own companies and
with
get
affiliate
leads.
links on. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yes, and affiliate links. So yeah, that's a nice way to go. How do you make sure that your guests are highly qualified to speak on the topic that you want them to?
So we don't. So I'll do some initial vetting for a podcast guest. Look at their LinkedIn profile, see what their reach is, see what their experience is, get a general sense of what they do and how they can contribute. And then we just kind of schedule them. And we've been really fortunate. We've had some great guests on and covered topics. The good news is if we have a guest that is struggling a little bit, Chris and I have 50 plus years of entrepreneurial experience. So Chris and I will fill in the gaps. And a lot of times we don't have a guest where we'll just talk about the topic from our own experience. And so far it's worked out pretty well.
Right. Yeah, what I find in most podcasters is that they start giving up on month 12 and 24 because it's not monetizing, right? So the sponsor thing, the lead gen thing is great as well. The AdSense, so publishing on YouTube. I know you guys are on YouTube, so but it's great. I'm gonna listen to a couple of episodes and see what I think from it. I like your book writing thesis. So I have a SaaS that is called bookwritegpt.com. And that's exactly what we do. We take like all your YouTube and take the transcript from there and write a book from it. Why are you bullish on books? Are you going to publish on Kindle? Is it going to be a PDF lead magnet? What are you going to do with the book thing?
I think we have a very foolish goal of having an actual physical book and trying to make a little bit of money from the book. I think that's really dead. I know that's like so 1990s thinking. but that's what our current thesis is. I know it's going to change, but that's what we're working towards. We want to, we have 250 topics outlined, and we want to put that in one book. It'll be a really thick book, but it's that thud factor reference book. Here's the problem. What do you give an entrepreneur? We're hard to buy for. So if my wife never knows what to get me, she might get me this book. So I'm thinking this might be a really good thing to give that entrepreneur that you love, but you don't speak their language. Maybe it's something that you can give them. That's what we're currently thinking, but I don't know. But we'll like any business you start, we'll figure it out along the way.
Right. Yeah, I would have 3 gift ideas for you. I always go with education, health, and business, right? So education, I mean, it's a tough one, right? I'd probably give you like Goggins' book, right? Have you read that one? Can't
No.
Hurt Me? Okay, so I would give you that. Then I'd probably buy you a marathon because I believe that, these type of challenges can drastically change someone. And 3, I had a client that bought my service for her son for Christmas. I help people get PMF, and I do GTM as a service, right? With a podcast and AI angle. And I thought that was super original. I was like, if I would have children's, I would probably invest in some kind of coach to help them launch their entrepreneurial venture. In your case, I mean, yeah, not necessarily a fit, who knows, but what do you think about these gifts, these Christmas gifts?
They're great. Yeah, I love so describe tree for me a little bit better. What does that mean?
Treat, like I said, treat.
Treat. Got it.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do you want a tree for Christmas?
Yeah. So education, health, those are great. I think it's a great way of framing. I love systems. So you have a system for gifting, which is really interesting.
Yes, I have systems pretty much for everything. My mind works in numbers. Okay, so let me ask you this: with the podcast so far, you get the data, you'll launch a book eventually. You have a potential moonshot for next year. What would be your other goals for 2025? What do you want to get done?
Well, for 2025, so the thing that I'm doing near full time right now is operating as a business broker. So I help companies exit. So I help I'm on the sell side. So I help companies find buyers and position their companies for exit. And that's what I'll be doing. I love doing that because I get to work with entrepreneurs, which is all I love doing. But also, I love the challenge of it. And for the most part, many of these entrepreneurs that are exiting, this is their only business. They have one shot to exit and exit correctly. So I enjoy being a part of that process. So that's what I'll be doing near full time for 2025.
And you talked about challenges and loneliness. It's one of my favorite questions to ask on this podcast. What challenges have you faced this year, and what challenges do you expect to face in 2025?
So as a founder, your whole life is looking for challenges and solving them. So I'm trying to think of the big thing that my life is so filled with challenges. I don't have one to just like pop into my head. Oh, well, this one was a really big one last year. Next year, I guess the challenge is to continue to find challenges. That's going to be the 2025. Is like the thing that I struggle with occasionally is finding that thing that is challenging to me. So keeping myself constantly curious. That's an ongoing battle. I would say that's been my battle since I was a kid. So I don't have a system for that or a process for that, but that's a life challenge.
Well, I see your co-host an Ironman. If you want something like real hard that will destabilize you and bring immense growth into your business and in your life, maybe you should sign up for that.
For an Ironman?
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be my thing. Let me start a little smaller with the 5K. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. If I go up in the US, we can do it together. I love challenging people on that level because, yeah, on my side, I had plenty of challenges this year. I feel I'm quite good at like bringing discomfort on purpose to me, and yeah, I can't say that this year was easy, but yeah, it was filled with growth, right? You often pondered about the comfort via stress spectrum. Like, where do you stand on that line here?
My favorite quote on that comes from my pastor, and I got it gosh 2 years ago. He said this during church, and he was talking about challenging yourself spiritually, and he said success and comfort are not compatible.
Right.
And I think that's such a great statement for life. Like if you're uncomfortable, that means you're making progress, and that's good. So you have to kind of learn to celebrate the discomfort,
Yes.
and because otherwise you're complacent, and complacent for me is boredom. It's falling behind. It's terrible. It's a terrible place
Yes.
to be.
It's interesting because most humans on this planet Earth live in this state of like they avoid challenge. They are sort of kidding themselves. They're not facing life with, like they're not seeking the truth, they're seeking comfort, so they're basically avoiding any forms of discomfort, not having the hard conversations. They're not like sitting down with themselves and be like, yeah, this needs to change. And for us entrepreneurs, the complete other way around. Do you have some mechanisms to keep the stress level sort of balanced when it gets like too stressful?
No.
You just go at it, and you've like done it so many years that it's
Yeah.
just like
So
your second
I was
nature.
asked once what keeps you up at night, and what keeps me up at night at this point is sleeping well. So if I'm sleeping really well, that means I'm missing something, which makes me nervous. So if I don't have a challenge, if I'm not thinking about something, if I'm not trying to solve a problem, that means I'm missing something, and that makes me nervous. So I'm constantly looking for what's the next thing that needs my attention. So yeah, I actively pursue stressful scenarios.
Right. And now they're talking about sleep and what most people need to get after, where in which any minute or hour that you're not spending on building AI systems, you're sort of missing out. What's your take on that? And are you taking part of that race?
AI is really interesting, isn't it? So I fundamentally agree. AI is so I've always been in the next new thing. Like I've always had my hands into the next new technology, and AI feels different. And the reason is that by the time you learn an AI system, it's already gotten to the next step where it's much more powerful, and what you learned may not be relevant anymore. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't be learning, and that means that the pace at innovation in AI, I think there's this point at which it becomes truly ubiquitous, where you don't need to be an AI expert to be an AI expert. You just need to be good at articulating instructions, and you need to do that with human beings. And if you could do that with human beings, then it should translate well to AI eventually. So I think it comes down to, in 5 years, the people that are going to win in AI are the really great communicators, the ones that can articulate in simple yet deep terms on how to do something or what they want done, which sounds easy. It's really hard to articulate something in a way to get it done correctly to a human being. If you can do it to a human being and get a human being to replicate something, then you should be able to do that with an AI soon. So I think it comes back to just really good communication skills.
I like that. Where can people find out more about you?
So just you can follow me. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Just go to howtofounder.com and follow our podcast there. And my LinkedIn profile is the LinkedIn profile on that. So just visit me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to get a hold of me.
This is Anthony Franco, and